Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami.
Dumba Jumden de Dejen Jewa Da Jumba Yandawa Zobe Sanje Rigba Dan Shabzu Demba Dewara Jeba Jigden Jemba Jebo Dube Galo Yorba Lana Meva Lada Menamje Dumba Sanje Jumden de Bejawa Jaja Duba La Jaze Lo Chodo Jauzo Che Ho Demba Chumden De Dejen Shewa Ta Jumba Yangdaba Zobe Sanje Rigba Dan Jauzo Demba Dewa Sheba Jigden Jemba Jebo Dube Galo Yorba Lana Meva Lada Menam Je Dumba Sanje Jumden De Bejawa Shaja Tuba La Chase Lo Chodo Jaso Che Ho Dumba Jumden De Dejen Shewa Dajumba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Rigba Da Shasu Demba Dewara Sheba Chikden Chemba Jebo Dube Kalo Jurba Lana Meva Lada Menam Je Dumba Sanje Jumden De Bejawa Shaja Tuba La Chase Lo Chodo Jaso Che Ho Sanje Chodan Soje Chonama La Chanju Pado Tane Jaso Che Dagi Chushe Gibe Sonama Che Dola Penche Sanje Jobara Sho Sanje Chodan Soje Chonama La Chanju Pado Tane Jaso Che Tagi Chushe Gibe Sonama Je Dola Penje Sanje Drubara Sho Sanje Chodan Sonje Chonama La Janju Bado Tane Jazo Che Tagi Chushe Gibe Sonama Je Dola Penje Sanje Drubara Sho. Hello, good morning. Today is a very pleasant day. Don't you wish to be out walking in a park somewhere rather than tuning in here? Anyway, so last week we have covered, I think, the first 3 practices out of the 37. So just to recap, so we talked about the first practice is about extracting the essence from the life that we have, which provides so many opportunities and has great potential to achieve so many things. So the first step is not to be distracted by other things except focusing on our Dharma practices. So day and night, says we need to practice Dharma so that we are able to extract the essence of this precious human life. And then the next is about how do we go about extracting the essence. So first, as a as a beginners, we need to avoid situations or conditions that give rise to opportunity to arise the three poisons, the attachment, hatred, and ignorance. So here, one such situation or condition is one's homeland or leading a householder's life. When you are a householder, there are so many circumstances that can easily trigger the three poisons. So the second practice is to give up your homeland. So at the moment, we won't be able to do that. We cannot leave our family and children and just go to a monastery. But here is saying that try to avoid the situations. Sometimes we know that when we go to certain places or certain meeting, you know that you're bound to be agitated. You will somehow get angry, or attachment will arise easily. So at this stage, we may not be able to really abandon the homeland, but at least try to avoid situations and circumstances where all these three poisons can arise easily. So the next one is, since we need to give up our homeland, we need to renounce our homeland, where should we go? Then the third practice is to seek seclusion, to go to a remote place where one is alone, and then it's less likely for all these afflictions to arise. So here is a union pangbe nyumo rimjite, because now that you are away from such circumstances, our afflictions will gradually dwindle because there are no stimuli or situations that can trigger our afflictions. Naming mebe kejur ngangipel, because there are no objects of destruction. When we are leading a householder's life, when we are in a family, there are so many things that can distract us. The one reason that we cannot commit or devote our time on Dharma practice is that we have so many other obligations which to us feel like these are the priority obligations. So because of that, most of our time and effort is taken by these worldly obligations when you lead a householder's life. Now that we are away from homeland, we are now in a remote, secluded place. There is no distraction. So because of that, it is likely that all our Dhamma practice will increase. Because now we have nothing else except to do Dhamma practice. So that's why I said, Namying mebe kejor ngangi fel. Rigba tangwe chola nyeshenye. Now that you don't have all that commotion, the worldly commotions in your brain, your brain's, what is those called? Those connections, or the, I think what is called now, I forget, dendrites or whatever those, there's less of these worldly things that are busy there. So your mind is much clearer. Your mind is kind of empty in that sense. When you lead ordinary or worldly life, our brain is filled with all that activity. So we cannot think clearly. So now that we are in that remote place, we are kind of retreating in a retreat. So our mind, the brains, our mind space is now freed. We have is like the clearing your what do you call the computer memory. You have now deleted all those unimportant documents so that you have now more memory, more space. So when you do meditation, it is more effective because your mind is clearer now. There is less thing to be occupied. We can now use our full potential of our brain on Dharma practice only. So that's why Rigpa Tangbe Chola Nishike. So these are the benefits, or these are the reasons why we should seek seclusion. So now we go to the next practice. Yuring Chobe Zashi Soso Tel Bebe Dube Norze Shudu Lu Jin Jongan Namshi Jumbu Bor Sedi Ludan Kese Laglen Yins Sedi Ludan Kese Laglen Yins. Let me get my notes. So it says, loved ones who have long kept company will part, wealth created with difficulty will be left behind, consciousness, the guests, will leave the guest house of the body. Let go of this life. This is the practice of Bodhisattva. So now the fourth practice is to let go of this life. So even if we are away from homeland, even if we are in a secluded area where there is nobody, where you are free from all these, what you call the lay person or worldly obligations. But if your concern or your mind is still concerned with this life, then the real Dharma practice is not going to occur. So it is so important for practitioners to really let go of the concern of this life. And we know from our own experience that why we are, let's not talk about the quality of our Dharma practice, but just the Dharma practice we are unable to do. So you look back the past week, how much time have we committed to Dharma practice? What else occupied our time and effort? We will see that most of our time is taken by our work and all the other worldly things. In one day, we have 24 hours. But out of that, did we even spend 1 hour of the day on our practice? It is quite rare, isn't it? So that's why, because we are so much concerned about this life, to be wealthy, to have all the necessary resources, to be able to achieve all the worldly things. We worked so hard, we devote all our time and effort in achieving the pleasures of this life. and we were so affected by what other people will think. If I do this, will they appreciate me? Or maybe if I work harder and if I become more wealthy, people will then praise and people will give me respect. People will appreciate me more. And then I will gain status in the society. We are all affected and influenced by what is known as the 8 worldly concerns. We are concerned by worldly pleasures. We are happy, or we are kind of possessed or obsessed over achieving worldly pleasures. If the opposite happens, we are unhappy. Likewise, material gains. We work so hard just to earn material gain, the wealth, the money. We like to buy big houses, like to drive big cars. But all these do not come free. We have to earn money, we have to make money. For that we enslave ourselves to work in the pursuit of money. Then what is called the praise. We are always seeking praise. If others do the opposite, if others criticize us, we get so angry, we are so unhappy. We always seek praise. We are always concerned about whether others will approve us. So these are things that we are so obsessed with. And then status and fame. Some people just buy expensive cars just to appear successful, just to lift their status. I told you about the story of a friend who bought, after retirement, he bought this fancy car, expensive car. He already has another car. So when asked, why did you buy that car? He said that, I need to drive this during Chinese New Year. During the Chinese New Year, the tradition is that you visit your family members. So why he needs that big car to drive to during the Chinese New Year? Just to show that even though I am retired, I am doing well, I am successful. But the question is, will they conclude that you are rich upon seeing the car you are driving? They may not make the same conclusion as you hoped. They may even make the opposite conclusion. Look at him. He is now retired. He doesn't need that, but he's just trying to show that he is doing well, he is successful. So we are so much concerned about that. So when it comes to worldly concerns, this praise is such a dangerous thing. It is so hard to let go of. In the Lojong text or Lamrim text, it is mentioned that that is the hardest thing. Even those who do retreat in the caves, in the forests, they are able to let go of the luxury home or the other comforts. They are able to let go of a nice house. They are able to let go of other facility. But while in the retreat, this thought may occur. What are people saying about me? Are they saying that I am a good retreater? Are they saying that, oh, he has done retreat for many years? This concern, this thought is still lingering there, despite being in the cave for many years. So according to Lamrim and Lojong practices, as long as we have this worldly concern, our Dharma practice is just a reflection. In Tibetan we call it sungyin. Even though we think that we are doing Dharma practice, in reality, it is not Dharma practice. We have covered this before. In order for anything to become or to qualify as Dharma practice, the motivation should concern next life at a minimum level. Of course, it is best to be motivated by this aspiration to achieve nirvana and enlightenment. Even if we cannot do that, bare minimum is that it has to concern about the next life. But when we really reflect on our practices, it is all about this life. We do prayer, especially among Tibetans, we have this practice of doing this prayer and this puja. It is all about this life. Even when we do, let's say, Tara recitation, what is the motivation? Is it really motivated by bodhicitta? Is it really motivated by renunciation or driven by the thought to achieve liberation? Or is it at least to wish to achieve good rebirth in the next life? Or it is just all about this life, to be free from obstacles, to be successful in one's project, to live a long life, to have a healthy life, to have success, not only with yourselves but with your children. Also, a common thing is your children to do well in their exam, to well in the interview, to get a better job, high-paying job, all this. So, from the Lamrim point of view, from the Lojong point of view, or shall I say, technically speaking, these are not Dharma practice. It is an act of virtue, but it does not become a Dharma practice. Sedila shena choba min, korwala shena nyejung means. If we are concerned or attached to this life, then is that we are not a practitioner. If our concern is for samsaric attainments, then it says koala shena nyejungmen. There's no renunciation. Whatever we do does not become the cause to achieve liberation. So now the question is, so what is the demarcation? How do we differentiate Dharma practice from non-Dharma practice? So here it says, Chö da chö ma yinbe sanzam dang, chö shama yimin, tse di le tong ma tong la che. If we are able to let go of this life, so when we say let go of this life, doesn't mean that you commit suicide. It means that you have no attachment to the pleasures of this life. So in Tibetan term, we have a very nice term, Tadul Nyengyong. That means our obsession is Tadul, means to defeat our enemies, to subdue our enemies, and to Nyengyong means to protect our family and relatives, to take care of our family and relatives. So when you think through, it is true. That's what we have been doing. So as long as we are so attached to people who are near and dear to us, and then we have this aversion towards those who does not belong in that category, we are attached to this life. We are grasping at these worldly things. So there is this story, I think you might have heard this before. So during, I think this was during Domdamba's time. So there was this so-called practitioner. So he was first doing prostrations. So Domdamba said that it is very good that you are prostration, but it is better if you practice Dharma. So he was confused. I thought that prostration is a practice of Dharma. So maybe this is not Dharma. So he started to do recitation of the sutras. And again, Domdamba told him that it is very good to recite the sutras, but it is even better if you practice Dharma. And then he was very confused. So then he started meditating. And again, Domdamba told him, it's very good that you are meditating, but far better if you practice Dharma. So he was fed up. He asked him, so what is Dharma practice? He says, let go of this life. Let go of the concern for this life. So when we say that let go of this life, we are not saying that we should, give away all our possessions. It is basically saying that we have to let go of the concern. At the moment, we are preoccupied with the worldly things. Whether, as I mentioned earlier, about the pursuit of the pleasure, the fame, status, all this, we are so occupied. If we get that, we are so happy. If we don't get that, then we are unhappy. So it is kind of loosening our grip over the worldly possessions or worldly things. Especially, I have met people who can actually let go of the possessions. There's no strong attachment towards their possessions. But their idea, their views, so attached, they cannot let go. This is another thing. My view is so important. My view is right. So anyway, because of that, because that until and unless we are unable to curb the worldly concerns, until we are able to let go of this life, no practice becomes a Dharma practice. So what is the best way? What are the ways to really help us let go of this life. So this is what Gyalse Tokme Zangpo is teaching us, that all this attachment, our concerns mainly arise from our attachment to our loved ones and our body, our wealth. We are so preoccupied all these things that we are unable to focus on Dharma practice. So the method is to meditate on the impermanence nature of these things. With that, we will be able to do that. So there is a Kadamba master saying that if it says, if we don't meditate or if we don't contemplate on the impermanence in the morning, half of our day will be wasted. And even if we failed to remember to contemplate on the impermanent nature of things in the afternoon, then we will waste further more. We will waste the rest of the day, all that evening time. So he said it is so important to always think about the impermanent nature of things. So this is so true. When you are able to specially contemplate on the what you call the uncertainty of our life, that death can occur anytime, that will really push us. That will really make us devote all our time on Dharma practice. Let me just give you an example. I think I might have mentioned this before. So when I was in Atlanta, when I go to these shops, I see nice things which can be very useful for during my stay in Atlanta. But because that I know that I'm not going to stay there forever. For master's course is 2 years. After 2 years, I'm not staying there. I don't know where I will be. At that time, of course, my plan is to go back to India. So when I see things, I was like, oh, this is very nice. I should get. And then the thought, oh, why am I buying this? I'm not going to stay here. I will be going back to India. So no point buying it. You see, that helps. Because I'm not assuming or I'm not preparing to stay. I'm preparing to leave. Likewise, when I first moved into this apartment, my visa situation was not clear. It hasn't come out yet. So when I moved into this place, the things that I bought are really cheap ones. The coffee table, of course, now it's already changed. If there's a young kid or something, I think just in one day it will be broken. I bought everything cheap just to just for the sake of having a coffee table. I cannot afford to buy an expensive one or good one because I know that there's no guarantee that I will be living here indefinitely. So when we have that kind of the conviction that we may not live here even for tomorrow, then we will stop making plans. At the moment, every day we are making plans with a false assumption that we will live. So this verse is to counter that. So here says, loved ones who have long kept company will part. So basically, it is certain that death will come sooner or later. Everybody must die. Nobody will live forever. None has lived forever, and no one will live in the future. Everybody must die at a certain age. The lucky ones, or I don't know, not lucky ones, they may live like 120 maximum. After that, even there is life, but our body cannot support that life. So we have to change, we have to die. And then the unfortunate thing is, the time of death is not certain. Death can come any minute. We have discussed this before. The death won't say that, okay, I'll wait for you. You have that project to finish. Or your children haven't graduated yet. Or you haven't bought your house yet. Or you are still young. Or you are healthy, still healthy. Death won't say that. Whether you have finished your project or not, whether your children have graduated or not, whether you are healthy or not, whether you are young or old, it will come when the time comes. So when it happens, what can we do? With all that we have worked in the past, all our life, let's say if we lived for 60 years, whatever you have devoted your time and effort, all that thing you have accumulated, all that wealth you have hoarded, will all that help us? No. He says, loved ones who have long kept company will part. Yuring tobe zashi soso te. Even the loved ones we have, treasured so much. We develop this sense of endearment. We develop this affection, the love, all that. We have to part. Either we have to leave them or they will leave us. When the time comes, we have to go alone. In Tibetan, we have a phrase, Ma kine putomba nangshin. That means like pulling out a hair from the butter. So when you pull out a hair out from the butter, nothing sticks. It will come out so clean. So even though we are surrounded by our loved ones, ourselves alone have to make the journey to the next life. Wealth created with difficulty will be left behind. We have worked so hard to accumulate that wealth, and many times we have committed unwholesome actions in order to get that wealth. We have cheated people, we have deceived people, we have told a lie. We have done all kinds of things just to make that wealth. But when the time comes, we don't have the authority or the freedom to even take what we call kaptakuba, a needle and a thread. As tiny and as unimportant as needle, let alone all that big houses, cars, and that fat bank balance. We have to, we have no freedom to take any of that. We have to leave all that behind. Wealth created with difficulty will be left behind. Even the even the body from birth, we have treasured so much. We have cared so much. That one also we have to leave behind. It is like a guest house or guest room or a hotel room. In a hotel room, you may stay for 2 nights, 3 nights, 1 week. Then you have to leave. You have to move on. So even your body, consciousness and your body has to part away, have to separate their ways, go their own way. So there is no real reason to be so concerned and so preoccupied for all this. So that's it says, let go of this life. This is the practice of Bodhisattva. Here, a king goes leaving behind his kingdom. A beggar goes leaving his staff. In the picture, you see Jeff Bezos. His net worth is $193.4 billion, which I cannot even calculate. I cannot even imagine what that amount is. And down there is a homeless person. He has nothing. But when the time comes, same. Bezos has to leave his $193 billion. Not a single penny can help him unless he have the virtues created. So a beggar, here's a beggar goes leaving his stuff. In Tibet, normally the beggars, because they have to go to beg for food from house to house, and Tibetans tend to have dogs. So to ward off or to protect them from dogs, they normally carry a staff, walking stick. So it says a beggar goes leaving his staff. King goes leaving behind his kingdom. Same. So the takeaway is that we are still alive. Since we know that death will come sooner or later, and the only thing that can benefit us is Dharma, we first decide to do Dharma practice. And then because the time of death is uncertain, it can happen any time, we decide to do Dharma practice right now, starting from today. And then we know that nothing helps except Dharma practice. We decide to do only Dharma practice. So this is the attitude that Kadamba masters adopt. It's called Tebashi. I don't know whether this is accurate in translation. I just thought maybe I couldn't find other terms, so I just use reliance. So this one is how, what kind of attitudes the Kadamba masters adopt when letting go of this life, when it comes to abandoning the worldly concerns. So the first one is entrust your mind to the Dharma practice. That means this time So you entrust your mind to Dharma practice only. Your main purpose and goal is to practice Dharma. So you are not concerned by all these worldly things, worldly possessions, fame, status, praise. You have one goal, single goal, that is to practice Dharma. So then, when you have that kind of attitude, so the question arises, if I focus all my effort and time on Dharma practice, then how am I going to support myself? I will become a beggar. I will become a pauper. I won't have money. I won't have nice house to stay in. I won't have cars to drive in. So it's entrust your Dharma to a life of poverty. Chubu tangla de. So at that time, the attitude is that this is the opportunity that I got. I have taken so many lives in the past. I wasn't able to dedicate that life to Dharma practice. This time, I am going to dedicate my life to Dharma practice, no matter what. Even if I become poor, even if I have to go and beg for food and seek shelters wherever, there is a shelter. So you are resolute. I don't care. I'm not concerned about all this. That's the second attitude. The third attitude is, if you do that, what will happen, that you may die because of lacking in resources, lacking in sustenance. So, and when such thought arises, they adopt this attitude: entrust your destitute life to death. So even if I die, it is okay. Of course, it is said that a real practitioner, if someone is a real practitioner of Buddha Dharma, that practitioner, it is said that, will never die of hunger. The reason is because Buddha has, in the past, have accumulated so much merit. There is some remnant of that merit which Buddha has dedicated for the practitioners to have adequate resources. So if we are a real practitioner, so there is no danger. That is quite obvious, apparent from the Tibetan community. So in Tibetan community, or in Tibet, or even now in India, or even in Bhutan and all this, we have so many retreaters who go high up in the mountain, in the jungle, to do retreat. But they never had difficulty finding resources. People will carry all that needs, basic needs, and walk up to the mountains, which take hours just to reach that cape, but they will still do it. So in that sense, it is very true that, if you are a real practitioner, you won't die from hunger. So anyway, here it is saying that you have this kind of attitude that even if I die, it is a worthy cause. How many times I have died in the past, but not for a worthy cause like this. So if I devote my life in Dharma practice, and then if I die from lack of resources, so be it. So that kind of attitude. And then another concern is that even if I die, because I'm nobody now, I have nobody to take care of, so my body will be left. I will die in a barren ravine nobody will take care of my body. He says, that doesn't matter as long as I get to practice. These are not important. What happens to my dead body is not important. Even my body is left in the barren ravine filled with maggots. He says, so be it. I will be not concerned by these things and then do something else. I will devote my life to Dharma practice. So that's what Kadamba masters adopt. That's how they think. Of course, it is not easy for us. So why I brought this up is that even though we may not be able to really follow the Kadamba masters, we should at least increase our time and effort in Dharma practice. Until now, we may be focusing, let's say, 1% to Dharma practice and 99% to worldly things. But from now on, we should at least change in that scale. At least 55% to Dharma practice and then maybe 50% to worldly things. If not, we can make changes to 75. That is the best. If we are able to focus our effort and time, 75% of it to Dharma practice and then 25% to worldly things, that's the best. But even if we cannot do that, we should at least make the Dharma practice higher in terms of percentage. Focus more on Dharma practice. Devote more time and effort on Dharma practice. So this is what we should take away from today's class. Just 5% more. That is reasonable change. That is attainable. That is doable. Isn't it? So now, the fifth practice. The fifth practice is to clear away, to avoid bad company. It is more like gegen tongnyeponwa. So that means to remove unfavorable conditions or remove obstacles that hinders our practice. Kanda chona tusum pe gyurshin tösam kombe chawa nyam gyurba chamda nyingji mebar gyurchebe tongnyeponwa kese laglins. So when you keep their company, your three poisons increase. Your activities of hearing, thinking, and meditating decline, and they make you lose your love and compassion. Give up bad friends. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. So this is about giving up bad company. So when we say bad company or bad friend or evil friend, so there is a definition. Of course, here it is already defined. So these bad persons are defined by these three characteristics. So let me see. Let me look for my note. It says, So this is Gongdang Rinpoche's advice. It says, Tikto yinshi rajen me jong kis, che shin penbe sui ji zum tenne, tsegu yinwe choji pame gi, lela jordi tikbe cho yinbe, gowe nation ringdu pongshi angs. So it says that your evil friends or your bad friends does not appear with horns. Of course, if they appear with horns, we will avoid them because it's scary. No human should have horns, isn't it? If they appear with horns, it is easy to avoid. But the problem is, they will pretend to be your friend. They will pretend that they are doing all this, giving you advice, all this for your sake, for your benefit. Remember we say, I'm doing this for you, for your benefit, to help you. So they will have this kind of pretense. They will pretend to be your friend. So they will facilitate in you being distracted to other things, which what will happen is, in which we will engage in reckless activities or reckless actions, which will be unwholesome, negative actions. So this kind of people who creates or who facilitates us to engage in non-virtuous actions are what is called the bad company or the evil friends. So it says, Gowe nation, ringdo pongshi angs. We should distance ourselves from these people as if they were contagious disease. If we know somebody who tested positive of COVID-19, what would we do? We would really stay away from that person. Likewise, it says that we need to distance ourselves from these kind of people. The reason is why we need to do is, when you keep their company, your 3 poisons increase. These people are the ones who encourages us to engage in all these negative actions. Let's go for a drink. You see here, I have an image here. Let's go for a drink. Let's go to party. What happens when you drink? What happens? Your judgment is clouded. Your restraint is no longer. You will engage in activities that you will regret, not only in Dharma sense, but at the conventional sense. You may get into fight. You may do some stupid things which you will end up in the prison. But here we are talking about the 3 poisons. So these friends, so-called friends, will only create circumstances that will increase our 3 poisons. As a practitioner, our goal is to really counter these 3 poisons. So if someone who is there just to make it increase, trigger our 3 poisons, we should avoid. And another reason is your activities of hearing, thinking, and meditating decline. So when you spend so much time with that kind of person, you will slowly stop doing this, listening to Dharma practices or Dharma teachings, and then contemplating, and then doing meditation. Because you see that when, let's say, if you are with a person who has no interest in Dharma, he will be watching TV and will say, oh, let's come, let's watch this movie. Even though it is your meditation time, you tend to adhere to his requests or his suggestions. And by, you lose that consistency in your practice. And then, if you skip one day, you skip another day, you skip another day, and then that interest is no longer there. You don't want to go back to this routine. So what happens eventually? You give up all these 3 trainings. Let me look for another. I have a good another note here somewhere. Here. It says, Tikjin mi dang cho mi ja, kedi tikba cheba da, tikmi chebe tena yang, tikba cheba to keshin, minyen pa yang pewar jus. Generally, if we associate ourselves with a person with bad reputation, what will happen is, even if we didn't really do anything illegal or bad, but just the fact that we are associated with that person, we will be accused of doing bad things. That's what it says. Kedi tikba cheba da, tikmi chebe tena yang, tikba mi cheba tena yang, tikba cheba to geshin, minyenpa yang pewar jurs. Because of that, they will be, you will be defamed, even though you haven't done anything wrong. Just the fact that you are with that bad person. And we have a saying in Tibetan, Zangpo shula chajang, nyembe shula gyagdung. That means if you accompany a noble person, a good person, you will be served tea and wine. So when you go with a good person, a person with reputation, of course everybody will welcome you, and you will be treated, you will be given the same treatment as the person because you are the friend. So likewise, or in contrast, let's say, nyembe shula gyagdung. But if you accompany a person with bad reputation, you will get beating instead, even though you did not do anything wrong, but because you are with that person. So conventionally, it is not a good idea to associate ourselves with a person with bad intention or a bad reputation. So that's one reason. Another final reason is, and they make you lose your love and compassion. By and by, first, you have now started to engage in these negative actions. There are more and more occasions that your 3 poisons, attachment, the more occasion for attachment, hatred, and ignorance to arise. And then, on the other hand, all these virtuous practices, contemplation, listening, and meditation has declined. And gradually what will happen is, you will lose that love and compassion for others. So this is such a dangerous thing for Bodhisattvas or the Mahayana practitioners. The main goal is to achieve enlightenment to help sentient beings. So that is founded on love and compassion. So if you lose that very foundation, so there is no way you can pursue Bodhisattva paths. There is no way you can call yourself Mahayana practitioner. So by and large, you will give up Dharma practice. So for that reason, give up bad friends. This is the practice of Bodhisattva. So now, we talk about the obstacles, the unfavorable conditions. So now it is about adopting, or what you call, I don't know, is the right word, adopting favorable conditions. So what is that? It is kanshi tena nyeba segyurshin. Yunden yarngun dadar pegyube. Shenyen tamba rangi lule kyang chebaran zimba kese lagliyins. So now we need to rely on a spiritual friend. When you rely on them, your faults come to an end, and your good qualities grow like the waxing moon. Cherish your spiritual teachers even more than your own body. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. So now, in order to help us in our spiritual journey, we need to rely on spiritual friends. So here the Tibetan word is shenyin. Shenyin tamba, shenyin. So shenyin literally means virtuous friend, spiritual friend. But the main spiritual friend is one's guru. So that's why this, even though it has a greater meaning, but it is understood. Gewe shenyin is understood to refer to one's teacher, one's guru. So he said that now that first advice is that you need to abandon, you need to distance yourself from this bad company, and instead we should rely on our teacher, spiritual teacher. So why do we need to rely on this spiritual teacher? When you rely on them, your faults come to an end. So the whole goal is to eliminate our faults, the flaws. Because of the flaws, we end up suffering. So who does show us the way to remove our flaws is our teacher. Through their guidance, we are able to learn what to adopt and what to abandon. And even in terms of abandoning, they guide us how to do so. So when we rely on a qualified spiritual teacher, we are able to bring an end to our flaws, our faults. And our good qualities grow like the waxing moon. So on the one hand, we are able to diminish or reduce all that flaws, all that fault, all that afflictions. And then on the other hand, we are able to increase all the good qualities. Not only, our gurus not only teach us how to eradicate the afflictions, they also teach us how to increase or develop these good qualities. So our spiritual teachers are the source of all good qualities. Our spiritual teachers are the foundations of all good qualities. So here in the where is my note? Today is all over the place. Here in the what is known as Lama Tsongkhapa's the Song of Experience. So it says, in Tibetan it says, Tene tiji lekso chinyeba, tende lekwar tibe tsawani, lamdun shenyin tamban bebayi, samdan chobe, chushin tenbaru, tongne soki chinya medongwa, kashin chobe, chobe nyebar ches. So in English, the translation is this. Then the root of creating well the auspicious conditions for all the excellences of this and future lives is to rely properly with effort, both in thought and action, upon the sublime spiritual mentor who reveals the path. Seeing this, so after seeing that your Guru is the one who reveals the path to us, as I mentioned earlier, we didn't make it during the Buddha's time. Even if we were born during Buddha's time, somehow, we didn't come under that Buddha's, I don't know, let me rephrase. So maybe we were not interested at that time. We didn't have the fortune to really receive teachings from Buddha at that time. Either we were not born during Buddha's time, or we were not interested. So that's why we are still here. So now, right this moment, there is no real Buddha. I mean, the actual Shakyamuni Buddha has already passed away. But we still get the nectar of Buddha's teaching. We still get the medicine-like teaching. So who do we get through? It is our Guru. Our Gurus are the ones who reveal the path to us. Our Gurus are the ones who show us the path, who teach us how to overcome afflictions that give rise to our suffering, and how to develop these qualities that give rise to happiness and lasting joy. So, because of that, as I mentioned earlier, so in that sense, our Gurus are kinder than the Buddha themselves. In terms of quality, they may be equal in terms of quality and possessing of the knowledge, but in terms of real health, we receive all these teachings through our Guru. So that's why they are so kind. So he says, seeing this, we should never forsake him even at the cost of life. So that's why once you have taken somebody as your Guru, we should never forsake him even at the cost of life. Even if it costs us our life, we should not let go of our teacher. We should not criticize our teacher. We should not find fault with our teacher. In Lamrim it says, what is that? Something. So it says why we shouldn't do. One reason why we shouldn't do is that if we do that, we will the one who will be receiving the loss. If we criticize or if we do say all these nasty things about our teacher, it doesn't really affect the teacher, but our realization will be blocked. There will be no further development. We will be stuck there. So we are the one who is experiencing the loss. So seeing this, we should never forsake him even at the cost of life, and please him with the offerings of implementing his words. So here, do we have time? So there are ways, according to Lamrim, there are certain attitudes we should adopt. So Pothowa said, one of the great Kadamba master, The starting point of all the spiritual instruction is this: don't let go of your holy spiritual friend, which is your guru. So there are ways to rely. So he says, cherish your spiritual teacher even more than your own body. This is the practice of Bodhisattva. So it is about how to rely on our guru. So we have not covered this during our Lamrim topic, because I know that in the West, people really, somehow, it is not a favorite topic. So I didn't want to start with that. So here I will just go briefly. So how to rely is rely on spiritual teacher by means of mental attitude, which is how to rely in thought. And then also how to rely by activities of body, speech, so which is how to rely in action. So the attitude like a wise young son. So the wise young son, he will learn from his father. He will listen to what father says. So he will let father to say or suggest, teach everything. He will observe and he will learn, but he won't argue that much. Wise son. So we should have, when we interact with our teacher, how we see our teacher, we should have that kind of mental attitude. Another is attitude like Vajra. Vajra is known to be stable and indestructible. So no stones can, it's like diamond. No, only diamond. Other stones cannot cut a Vajra. That's why it's called undestructible. So when we hear or see all kinds of things about your guru, you should be stable. Your attitude should be like Vajra, stable and unshattered. Another word is unperturbed. Attitude like earth, fulfilling the instructions and wishes of your teacher. Willingness to carry any burden is like the earth. On the earth, we build houses, trees grow, we do all kinds of things. We build bridge, we build roads, all this, but earth never complains. So when it comes to serving your teacher, so we should have that kind of mental attitude. So that's why it is so important to find a qualified teacher. So if you are able to find a qualified teacher, the teacher's concern is only to benefit you, to lead you to Buddhahood, to guide you. So whatever instructions he gives, it is to benefit you. So there is no room for other things to arise. That's why we have to be careful. So I mean, there are many other attitudes, but we won't go through all of that. And then the inaction is to serve your guru physically, whatever help your guru needs. But the best offering, the best service is what is called here. Please him with the offerings of implementing his words. If it is a real guru, if it is a qualified guru, he won't be much pleased by material offerings, things that the student does for the guru. A real guru will be pleased if the students put the instructions he gave into practice. In other words, if the student practice. So that is the best offering. That is the best service a student can give. I, a yogi, so Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, I, a yogi, have practiced in this manner. You who aspire for liberation too should do likewise. So this is about relying on spiritual teacher. So let's stop here. Taki jinye sabe gyawa de tenda drowa kunla kangpenda kyabara chizun losan chaba yi tembe nyingbu ringdu seje sho jambe payu chedara kyamba dan kundu sangbu tenyang tishindu. Teta kungi jesu talobji gyawa deda tamje rabdu ngo tuzun shekwe gyawa tamje ki ngowa kanla chodo ngaba de Dagi kewe sawan digwenja sambo chuji rabdu ngowar ki temba lana mebe temba jawa dinda. Temba lana mebe temba jawa dinda lame chinyembe kyawa diyan drowa maluba. Shinyin tambe zimbe kyuru ngos. Thank you.